You know, for as long as most of us can remember, record labels have kind of been these big, untouchable fortresses, right? Power is all at the top, and the artists are on the outside looking in. But what if you could just flip that whole thing on its head? Well, today, we're going to dig into a new idea that's trying to do exactly that, the DAO label. This quote it hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly describes the traditional music industry. It's all about funneling the value up, 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 while the people who are actually making the music, making the culture, the artists, the fans, all the creatives, they're the ones left holding all the risk.
All right, so before we jump into the solution, we really have to get our heads around the problem. Like, what is actually so broken about the old way of doing things?
And this right here really lays it all out. For artists, you're often treated more like an asset on a balance sheet than a creative partner. Fans, you're basically seen as a walking wallet, not a community. And for all the other amazing creators, the designers, producers, marketers, it's just a constant grind of short-term gigs with zero stability. And the whole thing is run from behind these closed doors, with just a tiny handful of people at the top calling all the shots.
Okay, but what if there's another way to do this? And that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today, the DAO label. You can think of it as a modern twist on an old-school cooperative, just built with today's tools.
All right, let's break this down, because that term DAO can sound pretty intimidating. It stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, but it's not really about robots or anything crazy. It's all about the structure. Imagine it's like a club with a digital rule book that everyone agrees to up front. The tech just makes sure nobody can sneak in and change the rules later on.
And when you put them side by side like this, the difference is, well, it's night and day, really. In the old model, decisions are top-down and ownership is centralized. In the new one, decisions are voted on and ownership is shared. Suddenly, fans aren't just customers anymore. You're actually a stakeholder. And all that secretive, opaque stuff gets replaced with transparency that's documented for everyone to see.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how in the world does a whole group of people run a record label together without it just turning into total chaos? Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Well, it turns out there's a pretty clear, structured process for it. It all starts with just a conversation, right? An idea pops up in the community. If people like it, if it's got some legs, it gets turned into a formal proposal. That means spelling out the goal, the budget, who's going to do the work, the whole shebang. Then the community gets a set amount of time to vote. And if it passes, boom, it's approved, it's documented, and it's time to get to work. No backroom deals.
But, and this is the big but, here comes the reality check. Voting on everything all the time, it is absolutely exhausting. This is actually where a ton of these projects just fizzle out. People get burned out. So the solution isn't just more voting, it's smarter voting on the stuff that really moves the needle. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. There's a whole toolkit out there that makes this stuff manageable. Things like Snapshot make voting super easy and free. Other tools help keep proposals organized so they don't get lost in a chaotic chat. And when it comes to the money, oh man, there's one absolutely crucial tool we have to talk about.
Okay, this right here, this is the key to keeping everyone's money safe. A multi-sig, as it's called, is basically a shared bank account with a special lock. You might need, say, 3 out of 5 trusted people to all turn their keys at the same time to get any money out. So what does that mean? It means no one person can just dip into the treasury and run off with the cash. It literally forces accountability.
All right, we've talked tech, we've talked process. But so what? Why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Let's talk about the people.
You know how it is in the music industry. You've got the superstars at the very, very top, and then way down at the bottom, you have millions of creators just trying to scrape by. There's this giant hole right in the middle. A healthy industry needs that middle class, those stable careers. And that's exactly what this new model is trying to rebuild.
So instead of just hiring people for a quick gig here and there, these DAO labels can actually create stable, paid roles for all the folks who make an artist's career happen. We're talking about the community managers, the designers, the marketers, the project coordinators, all of them. When they get paid consistently from that shared treasury, you're not just funding a song, you're building real, sustainable careers.
Now hang on, because this next point is maybe the most important one of all. The whole point is to crowd support the artist, not to crowd control their art. It's a huge difference. The community can and should vote on the business stuff, budgets, marketing plans, release strategies. But the music, the art itself, that stays 100% with the artist. You have to have that boundary. Without it, the whole experiment it completely falls apart.
Okay,
But let's be real for a second. To have a credible conversation about this, we have to get brutally honest. This model is brand new, it's experimental, and it is absolutely packed with risks. And pretending they don't exist is the fastest way to fail.
We mentioned this a minute ago, but it's worth saying again because it is the #1 killer of these projects: burnout. If being part of the community starts to feel like a second job, people will just check out, and the whole thing will grind to a halt.
Next up is a really sneaky one. You run the risk of just rebuilding the exact same broken system you are trying to escape. If your vote is based on how much cash you have, guess what? The richest people end up making all the decisions. And suddenly, it's not a community anymore, it's just a playground for the wealthy.
The treasury, that shared pot of money, it's the lifeblood of the whole thing, and it is a massive target. Think about it. One successful phishing attack, one person making one clumsy mistake sending funds, and the entire community's money could be gone. Just like that, in an instant. Security has to be priority #1, 2, and 3.
And here it is, the big, scary one, especially if you're in the US, securities law. If you start talking about membership like it's a financial investment, promising people they'll make a profit, you are wading into some very, very deep and dangerous legal water. This is not something you can just wing.
So yeah, here's the whole list. It really is a minefield. From dealing with taxes, which are a real thing, to dodging scammers, to making sure you're not putting all your eggs in one basket with a tool like Discord, a DAO label that actually succeeds has to be just as obsessed with managing risk as it is with making great music.
So, wow. After hearing about all those risks, you might be wondering, what's the point? Well, the takeaway is something that sounds kind of weird at first. Let's call it the boring rebellion. And this really gets to the heart of it. This whole thing isn't about hype. It's not about trying to go viral tomorrow. It's about the slow and, sometimes boring and frustrating work of building good systems. Systems that are fair, transparent, and built to last. In a music industry that's built on disposability, just choosing to build for durability, well, that's a truly rebellious act.
And so that's the question I really want to leave you with. In a world that's constantly chasing the next big hit, the next viral moment, maybe the most revolutionary thing any of us can do, whether you're an artist or a fan, is to slow down and help build something that can actually survive, something that prioritizes that middle class, not just the lottery winners at the top. What do you think?